Hello, welcome to Sonic Labs special. We're very pleased to have a visit from Boris from Native Instruments. He is the lead product specialist for the Maschine range, because today is the day that Maschine MK3 is announced, right, Boris?
Exactly. What you see in front of you is the third incarnation of our classic Maschine controller here. So I'm excited and it's an extraordinary pleasure actually to introduce you to this new piece of gear, which is the result of 2 years of development and streamlining our current Maschine workflow.
So, I mean, you're very big on kind of listening to what users want. And so what did they want and what did you give them?
Right. Yeah, we try to listen. For me, personally, I actually got out of my position as a lead product specialist and joined the design team for this thing for a couple of months, because I'm giving a lot of workshops and I see on a daily basis what are the stumbling stones and that could get into your way when working with machines. So there's these requests coming all over again, and I also took a close look at the MK2 and the Maschine Studio and Maschine Jam, and we tried to consolidate actually the whole knowledge and ideas that we got from all these research.
So, I mean, the first big news is onboard audio interface, right?
Yes, we finally feature an audio interface built in, which is capable of 96 kilohertz, 24-bit recordings. And as you see here on the rear side, we provide a headphone output, stereo headphone output, which is very, very tight, so it drives all of my headphones very confidently. We have a balanced stereo in and balanced stereo output here, and even a microphone input, which is included, that allows you to connect dynamic microphones. And it's actually a smart input, so it switches depending on what you use at the time. So it's really a no-brainer, just connect it and it will record into the corresponding channel. We have a MIDI in and MIDI out to connect to the outer world, and a pedal input, which is suitable for sustain and expression pedals. You can connect the included power supply to ramp up the color of the included color displays and the LEDs even more. And last but not least, a power button that allows you to switch on and off the machine.
So is it 2 I/O effectively, or is this headphone a separate monitor mix as well?
It's a separate monitor mix, so you can just dial in the software and have your, for example, your metronome going out the headphone output instead of the stereo.
So 2 in, 4 out, I guess. I mean,
yeah.
You could repurpose that if you wanted to bus out something as well, if you're feeling like creative there. Exactly. New screens and new pads. I mean, quite a lot of new stuff really as well.
Yes, completely overhauled design, as you see here as a Maschine user. First of all, and obviously because it's the center of interaction in Maschine, we improved the pads. You see that they gotten a little bit bigger, so we actually increased the real estate of the pads. This has 2 advantages. If you're a beginner, you might want to use 2 hands to actually play on one pad, and this bigger real estate makes it easy to use 2 hands.
That's for sort of rolls and that.
Yeah. So if you're an advanced player, you might want to get into rolls and flams and snare rolls and all of that. And also here, the new pads allow me to use the space which is there much better, and I can now use 4 fingers instead of 3. So it actually elevated my own playing style on another level. But also the interior of the pads have changed. So there's a whole new sensor technology in here, which allows for a much more linear response curve. So that means my physical power will be translated into a virtual value in the software, much more controlled and in a much more musical way. And if you play in delicate hi-hat patterns, you won't end up with these hiccups, with these accents that just stick out. So yeah, the pads have
Right, so new technology there as well. Are the screens the same? I mean, they look pretty crispy.
Yeah, they are very crisp. We learned from Maschine Studio. So what you see here is actually the Maschine Studio displays pimped by our mechanical engineers. So they actually could increase the brightness and the juicy colors of the display whilst reducing the power consumption to 1/3 of the normal Maschine Studio power consumption. So this makes it possible to power the whole device via USB. So we are using at the moment the power supply to ramp up the brightness a little more, but actually you can just plug in the USB port and use it right away with these color screens.
Right, okay. And I mean, there are a number of other user enhancements. I mean, this thing looks like a kind of an intriguing new controller. That looks like some sort of joystick, sort of scroll, switch, whatever. What would you call that?
Yeah, it's the 4-directional push encoder, and it allows to navigate into 4 directions, left, right, up, and down, and also to push the encoder as a kind of a confirmation for that. So it makes it easy to browse. So it allows me to get the focus over the different.
So the sticky buttons, kind of, yeah.
Exactly, and then to just select what I want and press the button to load it up. So we actually have taken a look at the Maschine Studio controller with the jog wheel and those 2 arrows below, and melted these 3 controller elements into one controller. So you're not torn between two-handed browsing anymore. You can pretty much stay confident here with this one.
And this is your own technology. I mean, you were saying before we started filming that this is actually kind of proprietary, your own sort of design of a new controller input device, right?
Exactly. It's a patent pending system which is also integrated in our upcoming keyboard range. So, and also in the mixer, for example, this could be interesting for machine users. The mixer can be navigated with one hand only. So I can go from group channels to sound channels. I can select all the different mixer channels, move the volume, even move it in fine increments here, or push it to reach the balance settings here. So this is pretty handy. Yeah.
So much quicker kind of route to parameters, right?
Yeah, much quicker way.
And it seems like there's the layout of the buttons has changed a bit. Things have grown in size and kind of are more apparent. What's new in terms of interface in buttons?
Actually, all pads and function buttons have gained in size. And we added 11 more buttons than on the MK2 controller, while still using the same form factor. So what's new is, on top of the pads, you see this new pad input mode section. And this allows you as a machine user to switch between your most used pad functions, which is the pad mode. That allows you to play drums here, but you can quickly go to keyboard mode and play a little melody in here, and we added a chords mode even. So.
And are they user programmable to chords? I mean, would you do that presumably in the software, right?
Currently they're not user programmable, so we work with the current chord sets that we've introduced with the Smart Play before. But actually to go to the chords is much easier than before, because it was hidden in the menu, because all of these modes have been developed over time, right? We started off with the pad mode, keyboard mode was added, and at some point it was just about time.
So you're sort of adding the hardware features to catch up with the software features that you've increased in the Maschine software. I should also point out, perhaps if people don't know, obviously this is a kind of control interface for the software that's running on the laptop, which we're not really looking at, to be perfectly honest.
Yes, now with Maschine MK3 I can just take a look at the color screens and work with them without looking at the screen. And there's a couple of more other things that we did to ensure that the focus is on the hardware and you really get sucked in and are in the creative tunnel, so to speak.
I mean, are the rotary encoders, have they been changed? I mean, is there anything different about those as well?
Yeah, they have become touch sensitive.
Right.
And this gives us a couple of advantages. For example, I can display these tag clouds in my browser by just touching the encoder. Also, if I'm doing some channel routing, I can just touch an encoder and get a context menu that allows me to see all the available channels and stuff like that. So this is the major points. It allows for a little bit of better automation, but the actual nice feature here on MK3 is that you can now map macros directly by touching the knob, instead of going into the software, doing some workflow there.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to take a look at this?
Yeah, let's have a look.
All right, so I have prepared a little pattern over here, which is actually done by our new bass synth that's introduced with Maschine 2.6.8. And the bass synth accompanies our drum synths and gives you a really nice arsenal of sounds. You can have a really transparent sine wave, but it can also make squelchy acid lines, as you hear in a minute. So I have this pattern set up here, and I want to actually perform with it as fast as possible. And so I like to pick my favorite parameters here and convert them into a macro, so I can just go on my macro page, have all the parameters on one page, and just start performing.
Right, okay.
So what I will do now now is I activate the macro mapping mode by holding down Shift and pressing macro. And now the machine comes responsive to touch, and I can say this one, that one, and this one here. Mm-hmm. We remember that, and this is now saved as a macro. I just go out quickly again and go to my little ice reverb, because I want to add some reverb at some point maybe. And I do the same thing again, say Shift macro and apply these macros to the master level. So when I go now to my master page and open up the macros, you see that all the parameters that I've just picked manually, they're showing up on my master macro page, and this allows me to start performing right away. So. Yeah. So there was
right. So I mean, but it's all within the context of the hardware, which is kind of, again, it's, we haven't. I'm looking at the screen, but yeah. I'm not paying any attention to what's going on it because it's all happening here, right?
Yeah. So these macros were set up like blazingly fast, and I can even take it a step further and combine these macros with the lock function. Are you familiar with the lock function?
I'm not.
From Maschine Jam. This is actually something we introduced with Maschine Jam, and it's a performance feature. It allows you to take a snapshot of your project, of every parameter, every volume setting, every effect setting in your project, and save that as a snapshot. And then you can go crazy in a performance
and bring it back to
and bring it back. So let's just take a look at this. I have this drum beat going on here, and also a couple of macros already set up. So what I'm going to do now is I hit the lock button, and this will take a snapshot of all parameters, and now I can go off. And back home. And we're back home.
Nice, that's a nice. Can you layer up macros, or have you just essentially got these 2, 4, 6, 8 macros, or can you stack them so you can page through, or do you just get?
Yeah, you have basically unlimited macros on sound level, on group level, and on master level. So you're pretty free as a Maschine user. Also, the macros become saved with your group once you save it in here. So the next time you open up the group, the macros are already there. And this is a huge thing.
So are you finding that a lot of people are using Maschine as the heart of a performance system rather than a creative system?
Both.
Or both, right?
Both. I would really think both, especially the lock feature that I just showed to you. It's something that works on stage, but it also gives you the opportunity to arrange in a very different way. Right?
Yeah.
So here I can access the extended lock page, and what happens here is that I have 3 snapshots already set up, and I can activate the morphing, and this brings me back to the arrangement idea.
Right,
so
okay.
Now, rather than jumping straight into the next snapshot, I will morph there and have a great transition. So just take a listen. I will now jump to the 3rd one, and all the parameters will move there slowly, go even more. And if I go back home, I just deactivate and back home.
Right,
so you can have 64 various snapshots and basically set up your track and have just snapshots, and you go through
for beats and drops and kind of turnarounds and stuff, I can see that would be very powerful.
Yeah.
This thing is also new in Maschine Mark 3, isn't it? I haven't seen this before on the hardware.
Yeah.
So what is that? Is that like a kind of touch strip type of thing?
Exactly. It's the smart strip, also derived from Maschine Jam. Maschine Jam uses these 8 touch strips in a row to do various things, and we now integrated one of them into Maschine MK3. It can do various things. The first 2 functions that you see here are pitch and mod, and as you can think, it's just the usual keyboard control pitch wheel, mod wheel thing, but you can also use it with samples now, which is nice from time to time. Mod wheel if you have something mapped to the mod, to the modulation wheel. Where it becomes interesting is in the perform effects section. Perform effects are a special class of effects in Maschine that have been designed specially for the touch strips. So it works that way, that I load one of these effects, and then whenever I touch the strip, the effect will be activated. I can move my finger, this will change the effect and modify it a little bit, and as I let go, the effect will be vanishing again. And this is of course great if I want to do these like build-ups. And just let go. So there's 8 algorithms. It starts with a filter, goes over Reso, echo, stutter effects, and we even have a scratcher. Let's check this out.
Everybody should have one of those, particularly if you're wearing a baseball cap. I think you've got to be able to scratch. So let's hear it. Excellent, excellent. So this is, if you're watching this, this is going to be available kind of probably in about a month's time in October. There's probably some NI here who can shout it out to me.
5th of October.
5th of October, there we go. What's the pricing? I mean, is it going to retain the same pricing or is it going to be more expensive? I mean, there's more here.
Pricing will stay exactly the same, which is almost unbelievable.
With them. So what is that? That's what, 599 euros?
It's 599 euros, dollars. Yeah.
Right, okay.
It's the same as MK2.
And that will be, I guess, shipping around October 5th.
Yep.
Fantastic. I cut you off there. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to kind of drop in there, but I think we've covered quite a lot of stuff, right?
I mean, there's one little, like...
Just one more thing.
Like
oh, come on
little
then.
icing on the cake. Also something that we derived from Machine Jam, it's the notes mode. So when I activate notes, this strip will actually allow me to trigger whatever I have in my group here. So I give you a little demo of this. It was going through all the samples that I laid out here. So this makes room for experimentation, right? I have some one-shot samples now here that are transposed differently. So if I hold them, I can play a chord, I can go to the next one, play another chord. And the idea is
so it's like a strum.
Yeah, and whatever you hold, so now it's these 2 notes, will be distributed on the strip in real time. And the cool thing is that you can use the notes mode of the strip in together with any other mode in here. If you're in keyboard mode, it will give you the keyboard notes. If you are in chord mode, it will allow you to strum chords. And yeah, I think we're just in the beginning of something, and we don't even know how the users out there will use this in the end. So also with samples, sliced samples and stuff like that, I can see a lot of potential there.
No, definitely. I mean, I suppose the thing about this also is because this is essentially the hardware component of, you know, the major Maschine software that runs on the computer. I mean, the applications and the way that you can configure it are limitless, I suppose, and they can go on as you add more features in software.
Yeah.
Right.
But this is now our new status quo, and this is basically the pinnacle of our knowledge and development over the last 9 years of Maschine. And so, yeah, I'm very excited about this, honestly.
So Boris, thank you very much for coming and showing us. Maschine MK3, available in the stores pretty soon after you've watched this. So do stay tuned. Thank you very much for watching. This has been Sonic Lab. Subscribe for more great content. See you next time.